Hi, this is Jim's Little Boat, and I'm Jim. And today we're going to service the Tohatsu Sail Pro 6 that drives our little Catalina 22 bootstrap around South Puget Sound. It's a pretty simple job. I'm going to change the oil, change spark plug, a few things like that. I will not be changing the impeller in the water pump. I have the pros do that, and I'll explain why a little bit later. Plenty of videos out here that will show you how to do this, but since you found this one, let's go ahead and do it. I'm really happy with this Tohatsu Sail Pro 6. This one has the extra long shaft, and the funny story about that is it was the only one in stock that day. I looked at a Honda, I was hoping to get a long shaft, but I bought this one because my wife refused to go out on the boat till we got a new motor. You should have such a problem. At any rate, this extra long shaft really helps the boat. I don't like the weight, but I can go forward all the way to the bow when we're motoring along in steep waves, and that prop does not come out of the water. No cavitation at all. The first thing we want to do is drain the oil from the engine, and that comes out of this little plug right there located under the tiller. I think we need a 10mm wrench. That turns out to be a 10mm, so we'll just put that on there and we'll take the oil out and let it drain down into this little pan right there. The book says use 1030 or 1040. I like to use 1040. It doesn't get that hot here, but hey, it can't hurt. Of course, I use Pennzoil. That's easy to get. Keep some in the boat. So far, I've never had to put any in. I made up this funky little funnel so that I can get the oil into the engine better. I'll show you that in a second. I don't really know how much oil the engine takes. I think we'll just start with half a quart and see what that does. It's hard to take it out. It's easier to add a little more later. I'll just take my time and put in half a quart and see where we go. I put in half a quart and I checked it on the dipstick. That seems to be the right amount. I added the little holes to the dipstick. That way I know when the oil sticks in there, I'm reading it correctly. For those of you who've watched early videos, you may remember I said, oh, I hooked up the polarity wrong and I burned out the pulsar at the time. I don't know what I called it, the alternator, the magneto or some such thing. But it turns out there's a fuse and that protected it. So I was able to just change the fuse and it charged correctly. I might point out that inside this little box, they give you a spare fuse just in case you screwed up like I did. So we'll change the spark plug. It's probably in great shape. They usually are. But I put a new one in every year, and lucky for me, the lady at the counter at the Outboards store pre-gaps them, so I don't even have to do that. That's a little more carbon than I thought we'd see after one season. At the end of the season, it still started on the first or second pull, so it's fine. But definitely time to put in a new one. Double check to make sure you've got the right plug, and it wouldn't hurt to double check the gap. Now, mostly this isn't a big deal, but these are steel threads on this spark plug, and it's going into an aluminum head. You need to make sure, absolutely sure, that you don't cross-thread those babies, or you're going to be paying really big repair bills to get that spark plug hole rethreaded. So just work it in there with your fingers, gentle, gentle, gentle. Make sure it turns freely, and then when you've got it all the way in, go ahead and torque it with the wrench. Torque it the right amount. How much is that? I don't know. It's the right amount. It's more than finger tight and less than strip the threads. So I kind of call it the oomph factor. There's tight, and then a little more, which should be about 12 or 13 foot-pounds. We're done up here on the top side. I checked all the connections and the hoses and the clamps. Everything seems to be in order. We've got a new spark plug. We changed the oil. So now it's time to focus on the lower unit. In order to change the gear grease, the gear lube down there in the lower unit, you need one of these funky little pumps. You can get one at an outboard shop, or you can pick one up at West Marine, pretty much any place. And you need gear lube, and I'm not quite sure I have enough. So we'll pick this video up after I stop by and get a nice bottle of gear lube. Got a little bit of grease at the two pivot fittings. There's one there, and there's one right down there. Don't need much. I just gave it like half a squirt each for each fitting because there's plenty there. Just got back from West Marine and got some gear oil. To get started, we're going to loosen the lower screw. Actually, we're going to take it out, and that will drain the lower unit. And after we open that one, we'll open the top unit to let the air come in. And we'll leave that off, and we'll fill it from the bottom. Let's watch all that. Use a nice big screwdriver. We're going to try to catch this in an old Cool Whip container. The bottom is draining nicely. We'll let it come out for 15 minutes. I'll go walk away and do something else, and then we'll come back and refill it. Got a full bottle of gear lube, attach the pump to it, and then we'll take that nipple and screw it into the drain hole, and then we can fill it up until fluid comes out the top. It is much easier if you install the nipple before you put the pump in the can, because it just doesn't twist around on the hose very well. And so once you've got that in, you can just hit the pump and it will start to move the gear lube into the lower unit, and you'll know that you've got enough when it starts to come out the top, which is why I like to start out with a full container. 19, 20, 21, 22, 23 pumps, got it. So we're there, 23 pumps, and it's coming out. Now I'll put the cap in the top, that'll hold the liquid inside, and I will try to very quickly detach the pump from the bottom and put the plug back. Just to keep things a little less messy, I store the pump in this little cake pan. It'll sit there till next spring when I need to do this all again. If you wanted to change the water pump impeller, which is located down there, you would have to open this rubber cover. And there's a reason that I never changed the impeller myself and I never opened that cover. Inside there is this linkage that links the shift mechanism to the rod that goes down to the gears. And that is a difficult job. Let's see how we did. So what was that, 4 pulls? Seems pretty good. I'll go ahead and let it run itself dry. Well, that's the annual service. It's not that big a deal. You need to have the right tools and the right stuff on hand and be real careful with that spark plug, but otherwise not very difficult. There is a reason that I don't change the water pump impeller myself, and that has to do with that little cover. You take that off and 2 rods come together with a linkage, and you have to disconnect that, then drop off the lower unit. Then you have to put it all together, and you have to get those 2 rods to go back together with the linkage in the right place, turned the right way with the handle in the right place. Those guys down at the Outboard shop do it all the time. They're really quick, they're really accurate, and I get a quality job. And it really doesn't cost that much for all the grief it's saving on my end. So anyway, thanks for watching Jim's Little Boat, and I hope to see you out in the water in just a few days. It's been so long. I'm ready.